Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. We are your hosts and neuroscience business coaches. My name is Saad.
And I'm Darris. And if for those of you who don't know, we help businesses scale. For example, we've helped companies scale from 60 to $90 million. So we're here to help you with the minimum effective dose for your business and to leverage the skill of neuroscience to help you do that as quickly as possible. And that's what we're going to do today.
Perfect. So Darius, we've talked about routines before, and the reason why I personally enjoy this topic a lot is because we get to really see how other successful people are doing what they do in their daily lives that leads to some results or some success.
Yeah.
We previously talked about Ashton Nahal and his very unsustainable,
Ridiculous,
out of
time wasting,
yeah,
garbage.
exactly, routine that people have seen, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it before. But in today's podcast, I think we should actually talk about a routine of a billionaire, and the routine that we want to talk about more today is let's break down Alex Hormozi's billionaire routine.
Okay.
What helps him get to where he's at and get a bit of an understanding from a neuroscience perspective and how that's successful and what people can take from it.
Okay. Yeah. What people can learn, because if you've listened to us for any length of time, we both love and loathe routines. So you can spend endless time trying to optimize this routine or optimize this thing. And oh my God, like I got to get up at 5 a.m., and go through a 3-hour routine. And does that actually help? There's a lot of them that are garbage. They're out there and they don't help. And so today is, okay, cool. Let's look at, like you said, Alex Hormozi's billionaire routine. And what can we learn from that? How can we leverage it? And more importantly, what can you take away from it? And what do you have to be careful of? And how do you make it work for you? Okay, cool. So let's jump into a little bit. Let's just walk through kind of what his his routine is, because I love it. It's so he says, okay, here's my routine. I sleep until I wake up. Like, all right, you got me there. I'm liking that. I wear earplugs. I put on headphones. I use nicotine and I caffeinate, and I go into a room that's pitch black with no notifications. And that's kind of his productivity routine. So we'll be very clear of kind of what we're talking about when his routine is. That's his productivity routine. So when he's going in and he's spending day after day, kind of like working on big things, that's kind of what he even says, like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things. There's some really great things in here.
Exactly.
And I can say, like, we'll say right off the bat, I mean, probably 85 to 90% of the way of you, if you leverage that, you'd be 85 to 90% of your way into a very solid flow state.
So I don't want to, it is our podcast and I can do what we want.
We can.
But I don't want to really toot our own horn and be like, we've kind of, in one way or another, have talked about how all of these things kind of help you
get into flow state.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about this, is why I love this routine, is that because if you followed that, like, so there's two things on this list though that we don't.
we're
listen.
About.
Yeah. I mean, if that's something you want to do, go ahead. It's the nicotine. It's more just so the nicotine. The caffeine and caffeinating, I'm totally okay with. I am a big proponent, especially of going into flow blocks and flow states, of getting caffeine right away and helping that as a focuser. Yeah. So I'm totally okay with that. I've not ever experimented with nicotine and caffeine together as a combo. I know we looked into it. We're just like, oh, that'd be an interesting one.
Yeah.
And I know there's some literature that suggests that it can be very helpful when it comes to focus. The only problem with that is both of those substances they can be addictive in nature. So I think you have to just be aware of your personality. And if you have an addictive personality, like you could potentially like abuse that a bit. So it's not something that's part of our official caffeine. I'm good with. I mean, like everybody caffeinates.
It's not on my program.
It's not on my program. It's not on our approved kind of here if you want a good flow state.
Yeah.
But it literally is fantastic, I think. So if you're getting there, like if you want, actually, we can just break these down a bit.
Let's do that.
And then we can talk about, so for 85 to 90% of the way to flow state, what would actually push us right into flow state and why does that make it such an effective one? But, the whole idea of sleep until I wake up, I mean, that is at its very core is very simple. It's simply about making sure that you're as rested as you possibly can and you've recharged and restored your neurochemicals as much as possible. Like, so you don't have to be an advanced doctor to know like there's tremendous benefits to getting enough sleep and rest. It's quite easily like the most overlooked, most beneficial thing you can do that doesn't cost you anything to get such a great performance increase is just getting better rest.
Exactly. Yeah. And we've talked about this when in one of our older podcasts, talking about like what are the prerequisites of having a good flow day.
Yeah.
Is the
very first thing is showing up, making sure you've prepped before and had enough rest and sleep. So like it's step one of the whole process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're not feeling great, then don't attempt.
Don't even try. Yeah.
But so sleep until I wake up so that I would tweak that a little bit saying how I'm planning it out, but for all intents and purposes for this, the reason behind that is to make sure that you have fully stocked neurochemicals, you have enough rest and you're going in.
Yeah.
And perfect. The earplugs and headphones, that's really around distraction management. And so there's a thing we call sensory gating, and it's really just gating the senses. So you're blocking out as much sensory information as you can, because if you are still processing a lot of these other sounds and things like that, one, they can distract you, and two, it's also burning up precious processing power because you're still processing that stuff. And so the more you can gate out a lot of those things, the more mental energy you have to focus and
exactly
pour into a flow state. So that's why when he says I put in earphones and earplugs and he's doubling up, that's why.
Yeah.
It's a simple way to drown out all the noise around and help focus more. And that dovetails in with the pitch black and no notifications. Essentially, that's you don't even have your phone on you. Like he even talks about like, hey, I just turn everything off and I don't have my phone with me.
Yeah.
But in a pitch black room, he's obviously working from a computer screen, but he's got no notifications, anything like that. Again, distraction management, sensory gating, like those are all really important ways to minimize the amount of external distractions that we have that are pulling our attention away from that actual really valuable leverage work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, again, to add to that is if you can't see something that can distract you, you won't even look for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried, not that this is something is a very common thing, but if you're in a dark room, you're not really looking for the cool shiny thing to attract you. Well,
Yeah.
If it's shining, then it'll probably catch your attention.
Well,
but yeah, you know what I'm trying to say with that.
Yeah, it goes. It's the whole remove as much distraction as you can. So when he says pitch black room, he's basically in a room just with his computer. There's nothing, there's no windows, there's nothing to pull your attention away. So even when you are going, like when we do our 1 month days and we go into like very long stretches of flow, it's, there's a reason why we say, okay, like prep your workspace, remove everything, get it off your desk. Like take all that stuff away because that stuff will occupy cognitive load in your mind. It's potential to distract you. Oh, and you're thinking about it. That's why we clear everything away. Again, it's that sensory gating, distraction management to the ultimate, because we want every little bit of energy, being able to focus our attention and get into deep flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, like the caffeine, that we use that as a focusing agent. Like that's not a crazy one. And again, with the nicotine, that's kind of where everything, like, so all of those things, like that's why they add up to a really great, getting ourselves ready to go into deep flow state, is because all of those things are managing our distraction. We're at peak performance in terms of we're rested. We have lots of neurochemicals, we have no distractions. Now comes the part where Alex doesn't talk about it, but if you are looking at why he's so productive in those states, now to get yourself into a flow state, what you need is clear goals. So what is the actual very important thing, clear set of things that you are working on and delivering on? And once you have that, like that will be the final push that puts you into flow state. Because if you don't have that, you're just sitting in a dark room
and with nothing to do. Yeah.
And so you need those clear goals to drive you into that very deep flow state of focus and creativity and productivity. And that's the missing part that he doesn't talk about. That's really important, that as we break this down, is if you just listen to him and said, oh, I sleep until I wake up, put my earplugs in, put my headphones on, I grab some nicotine, I caffeinate, I go into my pitch black room, notifications, sit in front of my computer. Cool.
What's the plan?
Great. What are you going to get done? What's going to magically happen at the end of 12 hours?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the thing required for all these, the way I'm imagining this in my head is basically what he's doing is just really, really focusing on the one thing. And you need to have that one thing in your mind or in your vision or the plan to try to solve before you go into this.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to have that, because you cannot have any type of mental roadblocks. So you have to have a really clear plan and goals of what you're actually working on achieving, and breaking it and bringing it down to the level where you don't have to think about, you just execute. Because now you're taking, like you said, like all of that attention and focus is being driven right into the now. The focus is here. And then that focus is what drives the flow state. Your creativity dramatically improves. All those things are happening. Your neurons are firing. Your brain is just like, oh my goodness, I'm in the zone. And that's when you get all those things done, is because now you're taking all the energy into something important. So, but if you don't have that ready to go, you'll be stuck in what we call, before you get into the flow state, it's called the struggle phase.
Yeah.
Right. You'll just struggle because you don't know what it is you're trying to do. And you're now exerting too much mental energy to try to figure it out. And so it's going to block you from being able to be in flow. So this is where, again, we talk about like routines can make you rich.
Yeah.
Routines can keep you poor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is why we both love and loathe routines. And the devil is always in the details. It's always in the context of what you're trying to achieve and how you're trying to achieve it and when you're trying to do it. Like it's sometimes feels really silly to say, well, it depends, but it does depend.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's my problem with it is, yes, like, again, routines can make or break you. It's a very vague statement, but exactly to the example you shared, that if you do all of these things and have no plan that's going to back up all your movement or your all of the necessary steps to get into flow, you're absolutely doing nothing with it.
Yes.
So saying that, hey, if Alex Hormozi is doing all these things, I'm just going to start doing this and I'm going to become a billionaire. That's not how this works, really. It really is not how it works.
Well, so then that's where you apply the right, you're solving the right problem the wrong way. And so, like, let's look at Alex, right? So Alex will go in and he'll do this for 100 days, right? He'll do this for 100 days straight. Well, what are some of the differences? Well, Alex is, they bring in millions of dollars a day in revenue, right? And one of the biggest differences, they have a huge team in place. I've met their team. when I was in Las Vegas, and they are an extremely competent group of high performers. And that is the reason why, Alex, because they have millions of dollars coming in, they have extremely competent people running extremely competent systems and processes, that gives Alex the freedom to sit and execute this day in and day out for 100 days straight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you, as a business owner that's only doing $1 million a year, right, or maybe 2 million, and you have maybe like 10 employees,
Mm-hmm.
well, what would happen if you just locked yourself in a room for 100 days straight and tried to execute on this? Like, you're not going to have the same results.
Mm-hmm. You don't have the same.
You don't
skill
have
set
the
yet.
same skill set. You don't have the same people in
The
place.
resources. Yeah.
Your people are not nearly as competent
Mm-hmm.
and skilled as Alex's team is, have never solved high level problems. Most of them come to you with their problems and expect you to solve them.
Mm-hmm.
So you are completely in two different worlds. Again, that's where the risk of is, hey, well, I'm going to go execute Alex's productivity routine for the next 100 days. Well, great. It's probably not going to go well for you, because your business still requires your probably almost daily intervention and guidance, and you still need to coach and develop your people. And so it's going to fail miserably. You're trying to apply that at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where it comes down to well, it depends. Now, is that saying, Darris, Saad, we shouldn't do this at all? We're not saying that at all.
Mm-hmm.
What we're saying is you can take this, but guess what? Maybe 1 or 2 Saturdays a month, maybe not during your prime time, business time, right? That's when you go and sit in a room for a day and you execute.
Mm-hmm.
And you put it to use. And you have a clear plan of working on the leverage pieces that are going to drive the business forward, that you don't necessarily have the time or energy to do in the rest of the week. You need that to constantly manage and grow those pieces individually, because you are at a very different time in your business
Mm-hmm.
and maturity level than, a $1 million or $2 million business is very different than let's say like acquisition, when they are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue per year.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really, I think, the crux of a lot of the things around when we say routines.
Having a routine. Yeah.
Routines can be great. And there's even a part of routines that help with cognitive load. So our ongoing kind of like daily things, right? So routines can help us because they transfer the energy, the decision-making energy from the prefrontal cortex to our basal ganglia. And so that allows us, again, to reclaim energy on a daily basis to make more and more decisions, and not maybe put us into overwhelm. And that, like, routines can be very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a whole part where those routines, like we talk about Ashton Hall, like routines just become like, they will just keep you poor because they're not actually the thing that make any difference.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mature as a business owner, you have to develop the skill of understanding when to deploy routines and which routines are actually important and which are going to keep you poor.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, you kind of just lost me there, mostly because I feel like we've said this so many times, where to me it's just like, yeah, it's like people should at this point now understand that you can't just take someone else's routine. And so in my mind, I was having this conversation with myself again. It's like, well, we've said this before. We've told people. We keep telling people, and I think maybe the more softer part of me is like, yeah, but sometimes people don't know better, and this is why we do this, to give people the minimum effective dose for their business and help them understand that you don't necessarily need to do something just because somebody else is doing it and is seeing some type of
The
success with
bright,
it.
shiny object syndrome. Oh,
Yeah.
that's going to be the magic thing that fixes my business. It's probably not.
Yeah.
But this is where we're saying, no, there is a legitimate thing in here that can help you dramatically improve your business.
Yeah.
The 1 month day, leveraging flow state, that absolutely can. But you're probably not going to be able to do it for 100 days straight.
Mhm.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and to the point around like,
Oh, I remember. Sorry, just to quickly intervene. Like, I remember doing the 1 month day for the first time ever, and you're like, yeah, like I do this for like 8 to 14 hours anytime, like depends on what I set the mission to. And I was like, yeah, I can hop and do like 8 to 14 hours. How bad is that? I did it for which felt like 10 hours. And I look at the clock and it was like 3 hours in, 4 hours in. And I was like, what the heck? Like, this is like, it requires a different type of focus, right? And if you haven't built that tenacity and that
Skill.
skill and the resilience to look away from shit, you're not going to have that on the first go.
Well, I mean, we say that a lot because it's most people have, you know, the fact that they've gotten into a flow state is completely by chance, or they don't really understand that they've been into a flow state. And then to teach someone the skill of learning what that is and how powerful that is. Yeah. Like the first ones are always garbage,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I didn't start off going like when I started developing the program, I didn't go, oh, I didn't start with a 1 month day. I actually started with, oh, I need to like, how can I build smaller flow blocks and actually get consistent with that? And then it was by doing that I was like, oh, wow, hold on a second. What is the common pain that I hear business owners talk about? It's like, well, I never have enough time. Well, okay. But if I can give you 1 day in a month, and you'll get more done in that day on the most important things, and you'll start to massively collapse timeframes. Like, is that a valuable kind of exchange? Like all you do is invest 1 day, but in that day you get more than a month's worth of really important things done. And then it was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You'll get the reps of getting to flow much faster as opposed to then like taking the long way around the guide.
Yeah.
I did.
So just to kind of relate a completely off topic story to this comment, I was reading something about a guy came up to someone and it was like, hey, if I could give you $50 million after a year, but you have to spend a year in prison, would you choose that, or would you work a 9 to 5 every single day for the next 40 to 50 years and then potentially become a millionaire? Which one would you choose? Every person's like, oh, 100% I'm going to choose the 1 year in prison and get the $50 million the year after, right? The reason why I'm making that correlation in the story is that, you're trading off 1 day to have 29 days of the month if we're just looking at a 30-month day. 29 days to do whatever the heck you want, but for that 1 day, just focus and be able to do more than you would in those 29 days. Would you do the trade? And logically, everybody's going to be like, yeah, absolutely.
Until it comes time to do it.
Put in the work, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing for the prison. The second somebody has to go to jail or prison for an entire year and realize it's not just all
actually
flowers
really,
and sunshine.
if you think about it, like people say, yeah, I'd go to prison for the year, but if you just focused and said no to a lot of stuff for a year, but what do?
Yeah.
We go do a 9 to 5
and
we don't treat it like that because we convince ourselves that we need all this freedom, we need all these things, and I can't feel like I'm saying no to things, and we actually paint ourselves into the picture of the second picture, and we say that, oh yeah, I'd go to prison for a year because I'm gonna get like whatever millions of dollars, but
the following year,
but instead of just focusing and just saying no to things to have that freedom, most of us don't.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's a great. I
think that will require another just separate episode where Saad just gets pissed off and talks about how people think that things come easy.
You know what? Okay, so this is yes. I think that we probably have another episode in us around that, but it's just I want to go back and just really close out the idea around when you said, hey, we've been saying this, and it is. It bears like we had the responsibility to keep saying it because not everyone's heard, or they've not heard enough time, or we've not said it in enough different ways for it to make sense and finally people to wrap their heads around it. And so Like that is our responsibility. And I get it. It's frustrating at times because you're like, I've been saying this for so fucking long.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we've been talking about flow state. We've been talking about focus. We've been talking about all these things. And suddenly now it's like every major, you know, entrepreneur influencer from Cody Sanchez to Alex is talking about focus. And, you know, it's like, hello, we've been talking about this like nonstop. We've been giving people, but that's okay. Because I look at it and say, we're all on the same team. We're all have the same goal of helping business owners. So,
and it further validates the fact that we are seeing the right things. We're
absolutely
able to identify them, and you know, whether it takes people a month, a year, or whatever to finally catch up to what we've been talking about.
Yeah,
it's just I think it's a compliment to us.
Yeah, I love it. That's what I said when I was at the with the acquisition team and seeing stuff. I was like, oh my God, I've been talking about recruiting like this forever.
Yeah,
that's how I've been recruiting. It's how I taught our clients to recruit and bring talent on board. And I was like, oh, this is like, it's so nice to have things validated. And you're like, oh, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
I will say part of that where your ego is just like, took you long enough.
But it's good. You know, it's I always temper it back with that whole idea. Like we're on the same team. We're all trying to do the same things. Cause I did like in the early days had like just a real stick around. Like I just had like any other business coach. I was like, you don't know what you're doing. It's like, listen, now I'm very much like, listen, if you're out helping business owners, then like all the power to you. Like, how can I help and support you? And that's what we're here for, right? We're here to help you as business owners because like there is no like as much I have a business degree and none of the business degree had anything to do with any of the lessons that I really had learned growing up in business and leading people and driving things forward.
Yeah.
It was very much corporate business where you have a lot of people who don't know how to run a business trying to run a big business.
Yeah.
And it's just like people show up and they don't treat their jobs or their careers like a business. And it's frustrating to see.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I think that's a really good place. Like we're coming up here. Like, is there anything else in terms of the breaking down Alex's billionaire routine that we didn't catch on, that we didn't go into and give a really good clear?
I think we did a pretty good job. I think the routine itself, for me, from my perspective, again, this is why I was having a conversation with myself in my head where I was like, feels like everything on here we've talked about in one way or another.
Yes.
This is just a different way Alex is consuming or getting into the flow state.
Yeah. And he may or may, like, this is the thing, like we don't know. He may or may not know that, but we want to make sure that you have everything you need to know to get into a true flow state. This is what you need. You need to also have those really clear goals. And with everything in there, like that's 100% what you need. But don't try to do it for 100 days unless you have a team that's actually in place like that. That you're able to do that. So don't try to apply his solution at your stage because you won't have the same result.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna end it there. We are BizMeds. I'm Darris.
My name's Saad.
And we're here to give you the minimum effective dose as your neuroscience business coaches for your business. If you've been with us since the beginning, thank you so much. If you just joined us, thank you. We appreciate it. We don't get paid for this. As Andy Frisella says, don't be a hoe, share the show. And to our mothers, Saad's mom, we love you. Thank you so much, Mom. Love you. Thank you so much. We appreciate everything. There is our free masterclass as always in the links below. So go ahead, sign up for that. There's a lot of good stuff happening there. And remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. We're going to see you in the next episode.